Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest on Better Than I Found It is Sam Humphreys. Sam is the host of the 73rd Hole podcast and host and producer on WWLS, The Sports Animal in Oklahoma City. Sam was also recently inducted into the Edmond Junior Golf Hall of Fame. Now, Edmond, Oklahoma, where Sam played his junior golf, was home to numerous PGA Tour players, including Danny Edwards, David Edwards, Robert Streb, Kevin Tway, Austin Eckroat, Taylor Moore, and Max McGreevy, just to name a few. So Sam is in pretty good company in this Hall of Fame. But Sam's college career was a different story altogether. It was a story of overcoming adversity. He's a cancer survivor. And a story of starting over, both University of Tulsa canceling men's golf, and then COVID, obviously, we all had to start over. On more than one occasion, he showed his perseverance, his can-do attitude, and his relentless positivity. And they've been inspiring to his family, to his friends, to his teammates, his coaches, and also to me. Sam's a very good friend of mine and a really good dude. I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right, all you Better Than I Found It listeners out there, let's give a warm welcome to a good friend of mine and 2024 Edmond Junior Golf Hall of Fame inductee, Sam Humphreys. Sam, it's a real pleasure to have you with me today.
Coach, this is an honor to be on with you. I listen to the podcast every single week. You're doing such a great job, not only with coaching the Baylor Bears, but with the podcast. This is awesome. It's an honor to be on with you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but it's an honor because you are an actual podcaster. I'm a golf coach who gets on Zoom weekly and gets some guests that are amazing guests. And I'm talking to a real podcaster. I mean, we're going to talk about your podcast later, but you do that for real and you do a great job. And I've been a guest on there, so that's pretty good too. I'm glad you're here with me. So Hall of Famer, that has a nice ring to it, doesn't it, Sam?
Well, that was, again, another honor this past weekend. First of all, you did an awesome job speaking at the Edmond Junior Golf Hall of Fame banquet, but I want to thank Steve Steele, Jane Gray, and everyone associated with the Edmond Junior Golf Hall of Fame. Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure there's another Junior Golf Hall of Fame in the country, and it's really cool to kind of be a part of this, group of name after name that has gone before me, and I'm just happy to be a small part in Edmond golf history. It's cool.
Well, you're a little bit bigger than a small part. You played on some great teams at Edmond North, but when I started the Junior Golf Foundation in Edmond in 1992, about 3 years later, I decided, it'd be really great if we could somehow or another create something that would bring to remembrance all of the great players that have come through Edmond since the 1960s. I mean, the truth is Edmond didn't have a golf course until 1971 when Kickingbird Golf Course was built. Before that, any junior golfers growing up in Edmond had to go to Oklahoma City to find a golf course, and that was, a 20-minute drive. But starting with Danny and David Edwards back in the day, Edmond golf became something, pretty special. And in the 1980s, they started winning state championships. And it's just been amazing to see all the great players that have come through there. I've been fortunate to kind of have a front row seat to that because I coached high school golf for 9 years in Edmond and was a junior golf director at Kickingbird. So it's very special and near and dear to me. And I was honored when Jane Gray and Steve Steele asked me to come and speak and be the master of ceremonies. But I was extremely excited when I saw that you were one of the inductees. You and I have a pretty long history, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But since 1995, when we had the first induction ceremony, 72 former Edmond Junior golfers have been inducted. And you went into the Hall of Fame this year with some really, really great players. One of them being University of Oklahoma senior Jackson Dowell, who just won a tournament in Hawaii. So you're going in with some pretty great players. But you went into a Hall of Fame that also includes PGA Tour players. Danny Edwards, who won 4 times on the tour. David Edwards, same thing. Kevin Tway, son of Bob Tway, who's won on the PGA Tour. Robert Streb, who's won 2 or 3 times on the tour. Max McGreevy, who's won in professional golf. And honestly, a couple of other players, Austin Eckroat and Taylor Moore, would have both been inducted with you on Saturday night, but uh, they were busy playing in a professional golf tournament. In fact, Austin won the Worldwide Technology Championship when you guys, but literally, he was in the middle of winning that when you were being inducted. Talk about your relationship with Austin. I know you guys go way back to Edmond North days.
Coach, I mean, I could not be happier to see the success that Austin Eckroat is having. I've always said this, and I feel like he got overshadowed a little bit in college because of Victor Hovland and Matthew Wolff being on the same team. I could go on and on about that team that had name after name on it. But in high school, I've always said this, that the most talented guy I ever played with or against was Austin Eckroat, and I got a front row seat to see that in high school when we were high school teammates. So Austin, number one, he's a great guy. And number two, he's going to have years and years of success because, Coach, you know this, coaching elite golfers, it's the most important thing is consistency. And that's exactly what Austin Eckroat is. He's consistent. He doesn't have a weakness to his game. And I think the sky's the limit for him.
I agree with you there. And plus, he's so humble, such an awesome guy. And inside that the exterior of that humility that he's got is also an assassin. He's a competitive guy. He can
Right.
play and compete. It's amazing. And I walked with him in college 4 or 5 different rounds where I walked with one of my players the whole 18. So 5 times he averaged 67 on the rounds that I walked with him. And I told his dad, Steve, I can't believe you haven't put me on retainer. I should be walking with that guy every week on tour. They haven't listened yet. And I mean, I'd be worth a lot. Nobody averages 67, do they? Unless you're Tiger Woods.
Only Austin Eckroat with Coach McGraw in attendance, right?
Well, either I'm catching him on the right day, I inspire him, or I don't know what it is. But he never played poorly when I was there in the group, and a couple of times it cost Baylor a golf tournament because he shot so low they won. So, but yeah, Austin's great, and I mentioned those other names; those guys have all won in professional golf, and you're just going, my goodness, in one small town like Edmond, and I didn't mention a ton of other great names that have been inducted. And I know you were very emotional in that acceptance speech, and for a lot of reasons. And someone would be your mother, and someone would be people that have inspired you in the game. But I think you just have a great amount of gratitude for all of the opportunities you've had to play. And I think gratitude is a great human quality.
That's exactly right, Coach. I mean, I just couldn't be more grateful. And the other night, the emotions kind of all came to a head when I saw all of the people that were so influential in my life, from Jeff Doherty to Stan Ball to Pat Jenkins to, everybody that helped me along the way. And then I started thinking, when we were talking about junior golf, I'm picturing me riding in the passenger seat with my mom out to Western Oklahoma to take me to a PGA Junior Series of the PGA South Central section event. And she just did that, hundreds of times for me. And I started thinking about her, and I lost, my mom to breast cancer 3 months ago. And I'm just so grateful that I had so many people in my life that that cared about not only my success as a junior golfer, but just cared about me as a person and helped me get to where I am today. And obviously my parents and all those coaches and teachers along the way. I think that everybody in the game of golf has those people that, golf's an individual sport, but it takes a team. And so that's where that emotion came from the other night. And then also, being inducted with those other great players, and then inducted into the Hall of Fame with, like you said, name after name on that wall. It is special to be a part of that group. And it was an honor the other night.
Well, and I think everybody is encouraged to be grateful for those things. But when you get to an induction ceremony like that, it's like, okay, it was real that night. And they had you bring up all your memorabilia, and you set up a display there on one of the tables outside. What I really, really enjoyed for me was walking down that main hallway toward the events center at the brand new Hickenberg Clubhouse. It's only a year or so old. And then saw all of those pictures of all the Hall of Famers that have come. And those are all people that I've had contact with through the years. And this class was all inductees who have played their competitive golf since I left Edmond. And it was really cool. But I followed their careers, and yours was one of them. thank you for the wonderful speech you gave the other night. I thought you did a great job, and it kind of reminded me the first time I ever watched you play. I knew who you were, but I was at the head coach at Oklahoma State at the time, and I was watching a PGA Junior Series event in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and it was in I think 2009. So you would have been probably about 13. Describe that day. I remember it quite well. I watched you play a bunch of golf that day, and I thought he's a big kid. He's going to be a player. Tell me about that day.
I remember that distinctly, coach. And I remember you standing right behind me, and I was just nervous as can be. Somehow I got the job done on that final day, but it was a PGA Junior Series event, which means that it's a national event, but it was at Kickingbird, ironically, where we had that Hall of Fame the other night.
That's right. That's right.
But basically, the first two rounds, I shot back-to-back 69s, and it was the 13 to 15 age group, and I had just turned 13, so I was one of the younger guys in the event, and I ended up beating the older guys, but I shot 75 on that last day. I just remember being nervous as can be, not only trying to close out that tournament, but even more importantly to me than that was trying to impress Coach McGraw. So I distinctly remember that day that you had my palms sweating.
Well, I used to ask Mike Holder, I said, is it really right for a coach to just stand right behind a kid and watch him play and make him nervous? He said, yeah, you're going to find out a lot about the kid. One, how he can handle pressure, and number two, how badly he wants to come to your school. Because if he's really nervous, that means he wants to come to your school pretty bad. So I do remember that day. I mistakenly said Muskogee Country Club. I did see you play in Muskogee as well, but the first time I saw you play was at Kickingbird, which was really convenient for me to come down the road there. You moved to Edmond from Oklahoma City. So Oklahoma City, not necessarily, it's a great golf town, there's no doubt, but the junior golfers are spread out. In Edmond, they were concentrated in one spot, and either at Kickingbird, maybe Coffee Creek in those days, and certainly Oak Tree, where you moved. Talk about some of those players that you immediately were competing with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome because my dad had a membership out at Oak Tree Family Side, or Oak Tree East and West course. But I did most of my practice by myself growing up from the time I started playing golf when I was like 4 or 5 years old, all the way until 6th grade by myself out at this chipping green at Lake Hefner, a public course here in Oklahoma City. So for us to be able to move to a golf course, it was like Christmas to me. And I got to play every single day with guys like Nick Heinen, Hayden Wood, Alec Heinen, Austin Fuller, who, by the way, congratulations, got inducted with me the other night. Caleb Myers, Austin Eckroat, Griffin Pierce, Tyson Reeder, Michael Hampton, guys like Max McGreevy, Taylor Moore, Ian Davis, Jackson Ogle, they were all out there playing all the time as well. So what it was competition every single day. And we would go play 18 holes in the morning. We'd go have lunch and swim at the country club pool, and then play 9 more at nighttime until it got dark, and then finish the night off with, putting contests on the putting green in the dark. And so it was golf every single day. And those were the same guys we were playing OJGT events against as well. And, PGA South Central section events when we were younger than that. But I guess the point is why is Edmond golf so good? And I said this the other night, Coach, it's competition breeds success. And it just seems like the reason why Edmond junior golf is special, it's because of the competitive culture that, we want to beat the older guys and the younger guys, or the guys younger than us. We kind of teach them the competitive culture that is Edmond golf, that, yeah, we can be best friends and go play basketball or go watch movies together on the weekends. But when we're out on the golf course, we want to be just a little bit better than our buddy that day. And it's a constant cycle of just trying to get a little bit better each day. And I think that's what makes Edmond golf so special. I don't know if you agree.
I agree. And I was a part of that for many, many years, and thrilled to be a part of that. If I thought Edmond golf was pretty great when I left, but it got way better after I left. Maury Rose helped a little bit by creating the Oklahoma Junior Golf Tour, and all you kids participated in those events in the fall, which they didn't have before that time. But but there was just so much competition, and it just got better and better and better. And you ended up with a bunch of tour players, guys that are playing professional golf today, all came out of that same town. Pretty amazing. Um, if I could switch a little bit here to another topic, your dad, we talked about your mom a minute ago, and we'll talk about her again, but your dad was a sports broadcaster and he covered a lot of major golf championships. So I remember the first time my dad took me to a major, it was 1970 at Southern Hills in Tulsa, and it was the PGA Championship. And I remember standing behind the first green. He walked me. We entered somewhere around 7, 8, 9, and then walked over to number one, 9T and one green were near each other. And I was standing there. I saw this throng of thousands of people coming down the hill off the first tee, and I thought, this must be somebody good. Well, it was Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. And I thought to myself, I've got to stay near these two guys because Arnold Palmer was 40, but he was still, the king of golf, and Jack Nicklaus was the best player in the game. And so that's my first memory of a major. Your dad took you to majors. What's the best memory you have of going to those with your dad?
Oh man, so many great opportunities through. My dad did not only a sports talk radio show, all sports show here in Oklahoma City, but he interviewed the leaders coming off 18 green for Westwood One and CBS Radio. So he was at every single Masters, US Open, and PGA. He didn't do the British Open, but then he did work for the BBC for the Ryder Cup as well as the American Voice. So as far as my favorite memory, it's tough to choose one, but I distinctly remember being at I think it was at Oak Hill. I may be wrong about this, but it was in the early 2000s, and Tiger was playing a practice round, and I was sitting right there on the tee box, and Steve Williams tossed me one of Tiger's golf balls. I still have it right behind me right here, but I was convinced that Tiger Woods was a robot. Now, eventually, as we know now, we know that he wasn't, but getting to see him up close and personal at Augusta National and just every one of those events. I didn't go with my dad every single one of them. The one I wish I could have gone with them to was the 2008 US Open at Torrey Pines. But for instance, I went to the entire week of the Masters in 2007, and that's when Zach Johnson actually beat Tiger. But just being able to see those pro golfers up close and personal, it made me fall in love with the game. And to be honest, Tiger Woods made golf cool. So that's exactly why I wanted to play golf instead of these, other sports. And then go on a little bit more into the future to 2008. That's when the Thunder came, and my dad started doing pregame, halftime, and postgame for the Thunder games. And I got to go to all those shoot arounds with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook back in the day, James Harden. And I would just go tag along with my dad every chance that I got. But for some reason, there was just something romantic about the game of golf that I just gravitated towards instead of playing other sports as a kid. So all that to say, I mentioned this the other night too, that, a lot of junior golfers have dads that are great golfers. My dad wasn't a great golfer, but what he did was instill the love of the game of golf into me. And the thing I'm most grateful for about my dad is that he never forced me to go out to the golf course or forced me to, play golf. He just wanted me to do what I loved. And he realized that I loved golf. And he not only took me to the golf course with his friends to go play, he took me, like you're talking about, to these major championships and Ryder Cups and things like that. But he just saw that I loved it, and he loved that I loved it. And we've, had a great relationship through the game of golf that I'm very lucky to have, that, a lot of people don't get growing up, and so I'm just so thankful that my dad was able to, teach me the game of golf and more importantly, show me the love for the game.
Well, your dad and my dad, so your dad Craig and my dad Gervis, probably could have taught a master class in how to encourage young men to do something they love. Because my dad never forced me either. He let me come to the game on my own terms. And I've basically been involved with golf every day for 55 years. But if he'd have forced it on me, I don't think I'd have ever been a golfer. And I watched your dad. And by the way, your dad did he presented me with the 2003 Jan Strickland Assistant Coach of the Year Award in
Wow.
2003. Yeah, you don't know that, but I've got a photo accepting the award, and he's in that photo. And yeah, that was special time for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
so another
that's
connection.
exactly right. And it's just sometimes you see kids that are great junior players that get burnt out. And I just never got burnt out on the game of golf just because, I was doing what I loved, coach. And I think that's a really important lesson to, uh, teach young fathers, I would think.
Absolutely. You played on 4 state championship teams in a row at Evan North. Now you only actually played in 2 state championships.
That's right.
About, talk about a tough team to make. You were a good player and you couldn't make the team 2 years. Talk about your high school career. What made them so strong, and how'd you win 4 titles?
What made us strong was we probably had two starting fives that would have finished 1-2 in state. But it goes back to that competitive thing that I was talking about in Edmond. But you're exactly right that I didn't play in state my last 2 years. I probably hold the record. I think that I would be the only person to ever in any sport in Oklahoma win all state, but not even play in the state championship. So
Yeah,
I don't know if
you're
that's
the
ever
one.
happened.
You're it.
Uh, but no, I mean the rule was we qualified before every single tournament. And ironically, coach, the state championship, my last 2 years, really my last 3 years, was at Karsten Creek. And I never qualified well at Karsten Creek. For instance, the last high school tournament I ever played in was at Lincoln Park, and I shot 8 under par. I got beat by Brad Dalkey, who broke the course record that day, but that's a different story. But the point is that Coach Doherty, the only way to make it fair with guys like, Nick Heinen, Austin Eckroat, Griffin Pierce, who played at OU, Tyson Reeder, who played at OSU, and then Arkansas. I went to Tulsa. And so the only way to make it fair for everybody was just to qualify before every single tournament. And I played a lot of high school tournaments in the starting five my junior and senior year, but for some reason, Karsten Creek ate my lunch.
Yeah, I've known a lot of players that Karsten Creek ate their lunch, and it's not an easy task, but that's okay. You got to play on 4 great teams, and and just this past week you were rewarded for a great junior career by being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, but that great career did get you to the University of Tulsa, and Hall of Fame Hall of Fame coach Bill Brogdon was your coach for 2 years, and unfortunately Tulsa dropped the men's program. And so after 2 years, you were without a place to play. Talk about playing for Coach Brogdon and then the shock, disappointment, and pivoting to get a new opportunity. Talk about that time in your life.
Coach Brogdon is an absolute legend. And I'm sure, this is a coach's show, or, you got a lot of college coaches that listen to this show. I'm sure that they all either know Coach Brogdon or know some Coach Brogdon story, but being able to play for the man for 2 years. I redshirted my freshman year and then played every event my redshirt freshman year. It was, just full. I just felt like I was a sponge, with all this information seeping into me. And he's not direct, but he is able to, with kind of in a dry way, be able to explain or teach you different parts of the game. Like he made things so simple. I'll give you one of them. That I wasn't able to hit a fairway at one point, and I remember Bill Brogdon coming up to me on the tee box, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Sam, do me a favor." He goes, "Look out into that fairway and imagine how many golf balls would fit in that fairway." And he goes, "Now you tell me again that this is hard. This is a hard fairway to hit. It's not. A million golf balls could fit in that fairway." Or, I remember one time in a tournament, I had just made a bogey, and he comes up to me and he said, and obviously I'm fuming, and he comes up to me and he says, Sam, why are you so mad you made bogey? You should be happy that you hit 4 bad shots and you still made 5. You know, he always had that ability to, without being angry or yelling or, without, being loud, he just in a soft spoken way was able to calm you down in stressful situations. And I think that was probably Coach Brogdon's best quality as a coach. But just as far as someone who was able to have such a great career, but still transcend generations, like, he coached those great ORU teams back in the day and then coached me, which that was, a 30 or 40-year difference, whatever that was. And so his ability to relate to young men, even as he got older, I think was really impressive. And I remember him always telling us that you may not agree with what I'm saying in these meetings or in our personal meetings, but I just want you to listen and take the bits and pieces that make sense to you, and try to use that information to make you the best as you can be. So I love Coach Brogdon. I hope that he can get into the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame one day because he absolutely deserves that.
I agree with that. And I had him as a podcast guest a year or so ago, and it was really enjoyable for me. He was the second college golf coach I ever met. He watched me play in the Junior Orange Bowl over Christmas, and then we happened to be on the same flight on the way back, and we talked for 2 hours, and it was great. But I got to know him all through the years. Great guy, great sense of humor, and a Hall of Famer for sure. But they dropped the program. I know that was shocking, but J.W. Vandenborn absolutely just leapt right into your life and gave you an opportunity. Talk about what he did for you.
That's exactly right. So, we could probably do a whole nother hour on Tulsa dropping the program, but let's just say they dropped it. And then,
Yeah.
and so that was in 2016 after my redshirt freshman year. And this was before the transfer portal ever existed. And so all of the schools that I talked to about going to out of high school, they already had, not only did they not have any scholarships left, they didn't have any spots left on the team, because this was in April, before the next season started. This was at the end of our spring season, essentially. And so it was bad timing for the guys that were on the team. But I did, go, basically I went home having no clue what I was going to do. And it was like going through the whole high school recruiting process again, except in warp speed. And so I remember I was out playing at Oak Tree National, and I was playing with Rian Gibson, Australian, who has played on the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour, and also played his college golf at Oklahoma Christian, but good buddy of mine. And he said, "Where are you going to college next year?" And I said, "I have no idea where I'm going." And he goes, "Let me make a call to my friend J.W. Vandenborn, who's the head coach at UMKC. They go by Kansas City. But up in Kansas City," he said, "Let me give him a call, tell him that I think you have some talent and that I think that Coach Vandenborn should, take a look at you." And so about a week goes by, I don't hear anything. And then J.W. Vandenborn gives me a call and says, "I want you to come up to Kansas City and go on a recruiting visit." And that day, he told me that they didn't have any scholarships left, but they might have a spot. Well, this was getting pretty deep into the summertime, and I needed a place to go, and so I posted on social media. I said, just committed to UMKC, and then Coach Vandenborn called me back and said, "Well, I told you I don't have any scholarships." I said, "You're the only coach that has a spot, coach. And so I'm coming to UMKC." So basically I just bet on myself a little bit. I could have, gone to like a UCO or a D2 school, but I still wanted to, play Division I golf. And so, so then we get back home and, sorry, coach, let me try to remember this. So basically after I did that, sorry, can you cut this?
Yeah, we can do it. Let's see what time it is. Yeah, let's see here. He'll know there's a spot in the recording. I'll tell him it's toward the end. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'll say 3, 2, 1, and we'll start again. So how do you want to start that?
I'll just say 3, 2, 1, and I'll start.
Gotcha.
All right. So, all right. 3, 2, 1. So I end up going to UMKC, and UMKC, coach, they have a great French connection. Antoine Rosner, who plays on the DP World Tour. Basically, our team, when I was there, was all French guys, and then myself and McCain Shellhart from Oklahoma. And so they had some success. They had a national championship appearance the year before I got there. We made regionals at Jimmy Austin in 2018, right before I had cancer. But so basically, coach, I walked on there just kind of betting on myself, and at the end of my first year, I had only missed 2 tournaments. I qualified for pretty much every event, and by the next year I was on a full ride. And so I think that was kind of a lesson that even when you may not have a scholarship or even a spot at times, to just bet on yourself and focus on the golf, and the results will take care of itself. But by the time it was 2018, I was, playing some of the best golf of my career. And, I'm sure you'll ask about the cancer, but I had to take a year off for cancer. Then I came back and then played I was able to start every single event in the fall of 2019. And then obviously COVID happened. So, coach, I still have a year of COVID eligibility if you need me down at Baylor.
Yeah, we leave for Palm Springs on February 15th. Just get yourself there. We'll have you in the lineup.
But anyway, yeah. So kind of a crazy college career, right, coach?
Well, if you think about it, they dropped the program of a school that you went to and you committed to initially, and a Hall of Fame coach is out of a job. You have a cancer diagnosis, obviously, after getting to a new school. I was always very impressed with the way you made your way through that process, and you got back to playing competitive golf. And then then the COVID hits when you're playing some of the best golf you've ever hit. So I would say it was a little disjointed and a little bit unusual and unfortunate. But you know what? You've made a habit of being able to overcome adversity. I think that's probably, we talked about gratitude being one of your great qualities, but I think just your ability to overcome things that slap you in the face. And that's what life does a lot of times. So we don't need to talk about the whole cancer situation, but how were you able to overcome that and then come back to the game?
Number one is a positive attitude. That's the number one thing you have to learn if you're going through something that serious, because the anxiety can take a hold of you. And that people always ask what the worst part of cancer was. And it wasn't the tough chemo treatments that, don't get me wrong, were awful. But the worst part about having cancer is not being able to control the situation and not knowing what the next test results are going to be. And so when I say you have to have a positive attitude, you can drive yourself crazy worrying about whether this is going to go wrong, or, the next test result is going to be bad and I'm going to have to do 4 more rounds of chemo or whatever it may be. So you just have to constantly remind yourself that every day is a gift, and lean on. I'm big into my faith. I leaned on, my relationship with Jesus Christ, and, prayed a lot throughout that period. And I think a positive attitude can go a long way. And I had to learn that. It's funny because I would always get so down on myself when I was playing golf, but the cancer diagnosis and going through cancer, you have no other choice but to, have a great attitude and treat every day with gratitude, like you were talking about in the first place. And so I feel like people, even though they may not go through something that serious, can use that kind of mindset in their everyday life to help them be successful.
Well, you inspired me. I'll tell you that. It really did. And even though I was down here in Waco and you were up in Oklahoma, in Kansas, in Missouri, I definitely was inspired by the way you handled it, and you came back to the game, and you inspired me here in the last year too, because your mom had a long illness and had cancer, and it was a tough situation, and you lost her 3 months ago, but I know she was awfully proud of what you've done, what you've accomplished, and where you are in life. So talk about the inspiration she was for you.
Yeah. And coach, first of all, you inspired me throughout my whole battle with cancer. And you also helped me a ton throughout my mom's battle with cancer, and your ability to just be able to text me out of the blue. I don't know why you're even thinking about me at the time,
Yeah.
and I just really thank you so much for sending me all those notes and those text messages and those calls. I really appreciate that. But as far as my mom goes, it's been really tough. I lost her a little over 3 months ago, coach. And like you said, we were talking about at the beginning, my mom and I were super close. She took me to all of my junior events growing up, and she was literally my biggest fan. So the thing is that me going through cancer was a lot easier than my mom having to watch my mom go through cancer. I wish I could have taken, that pain away and all of the suffering away, but I know she's in a better place now. And, you know, it's, it's really tough. And so I appreciate your support throughout that process too, coach.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that. I remember when my mom, we lost her to cancer in October of 93. And I told you at one point that, you never kind of lose those feelings and thoughts and things you had, but you've always got the memories of what your mom meant to you, what she was. And so, although it's a sad time, it's also a time for, just celebrating the wonderful life that she lived, and the fact that you probably were a better golfer. We know you're a better person because of her influence on you. So, young kids, just cherish the moments and the times you have with your parents and all they do for you.
That's exactly right. And, I said this at the banquet the other night, and I meant it when I said that my mom was the tough one in the family. And I think that, it kind of mirrors itself with a lot of junior golfers, that their moms are the unsung heroes of, those kids' junior golf careers, that they're the tough ones on these kids and want them to succeed more than anybody. But, like for instance, coach, one time my mom, you know, I had done something wrong and I was going to get a spanking, and instead of, and basically my whole master plan was to hide the paddle that I got spanked with, and I hid it behind the refrigerator. And instead of, looking for the paddle or anything like that, my mom drove me to Home Depot and let me pick out the next paddle that I was going to get spanked with. So my
Genius.
point, me bringing that story up is just to, kind of paint a picture of, we were super close, but she was a tough, stern, just wanted me to succeed, and she did things the right way. And I think that a lot of junior golfers out there have those mothers as well. And I just want those kids out there, if they're listening or, hope to be recruited one day, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you is just be grateful and go tell your mom thank you for everything they've done to help them in their junior careers.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It is so, so important. And I think sometimes when kids have a lot of success and they kind of start feeling, they look at their trophy case and they start feeling pretty big, and they forget there's some people very special in my life that are doing this. And, coaches, it's the same way. If you have success as a coach, you've got to remember there are other coaches who poured into your career. There are players who are shooting those scores to make you look like a good coach too. So there's always somebody to thank for success that we have. And speaking of that, you're having a great amount of success with the 73rd Hole podcast, of which I've been a guest, and noon to 4 show every day on the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City. Your dad had to have influenced that career, I know, and I know he's been a mentor for you in that area. Talk about that, and how can people find you? I'm not technology, so I don't know how to live stream anything. How can people find you?
Yeah. First of all, we're on Apple Podcasts, the Sports Animal app, golfoklahoma.org, just anywhere you get your podcasts. That's where you can find the podcast. You can also, like you said, listen if you're in the Oklahoma City area on 98.1 FM, WWLS, the Sports Animal. I'm on with Mark Rogers and Jim Traber from noon to 4 every single day. But as far as my dad influencing me to get into this business, Coach, you might laugh at this, but it's actually the opposite. Now, hang with me here, but in the beginning, he was kind of steering me away from it because you don't make a whole lot of money in this business.
No.
But he like I was saying with the game of golf, he saw that. Well, I guess I'll start here. After COVID happened, there weren't any professional golf tournaments to play in. I did play one at the Oklahoma Open, but at the Oklahoma Open, I tore an ab muscle in my abdomen and wasn't able to play for a couple months. And during those couple months, Kim McLeod of golfoklahoma.org reached out to me to write a couple stories on golf, and I did, and I loved it. And I thought, you'll laugh at this, Coach, that I thought it was, way less stressful than actually playing golf. I said, I can get paid for just talking or writing about golf. This is awesome. And so I really enjoyed it. And when I told my dad I wanted to quit golf and go into, sports journalism, at the time it was just golf journalism, he was basically saying, if you love it, do it. And if you're going to do it right. But just know that you're not going to make a whole lot of money in this business for a while. But basically, I just said yes to everything. And eventually I pitched the idea of starting a podcast for golfoklahoma.org. And instead of starting my own podcast, I had two buddies that had started a golf podcast during COVID, Colby Powell and Taylor Williams, who had the 73rd hole. And I just brought them in to golfoklahoma.org and jumped on the air with those guys. And it was an instant chemistry. And Colby went on to work for the Golf Channel, and Taylor and I still do the 73rd hole podcast every week. And taking Colby's place over the past year and a half has been Jim Woodward, legendary teaching professional. He played on the PGA Tour. Woody is just phenomenal, and he's pure entertainment. So between, our connections for interviews and our weekly recaps, and Taylor Williams is just a golf history savant, with the numbers and the analytics. And it's been a really fun ride as far as the podcast goes. And then when I was saying I said yes to everything, I had some free time, obviously, quitting golf. I started the podcast, but the podcast is only 1 or 2 times a week. So I had all this free time. And I told my dad, I said, do you think there's a chance that, there would be a job opening at the Sports Animal, just to do anything, just to fill some of my free time? And I got offered a job by the old boss, Baker, and now our new boss, Robert Mueller, Cisco. But they offered me to do Thunder basketball and produce those games. And I had never run a board in my life, producing anything on the radio. And all of a sudden they're asking me to do NBA games. They said, oh, it's okay. Just go in, learn from my man, Josh Lee, for about 2 weeks. And eventually I was producing live NBA games for Matt Pinto on the air. And so I absolutely loved that. But I obviously wasn't talking on the air. And so then I said, is there any way I could start producing, weekly shows? And they started to hear my podcast and me hosting that. And it was great experience and great on air time as far as kind of like a resume for me. And so then I was able to host weekend shows and fill in anytime a producer was gone. And then whenever my dad retired, this would be last year, he retired, and Matt Ravis, who was the producer for Jim Traber and Mark Rogers, he took over my dad's slot as the host, and I interviewed for my dad's slot and everything. And I didn't get that job, but what I did get was Matt Ravis's producing job, producing noon to 4 on the Sports Animal, working with Mark Rogers and Cale Gundy from noon to 2 and Brad Copeland, and then working with Jim Traber from 2 to 4, doing all sports. And it's just been awesome. I absolutely love it. Covering Thunder basketball to college football to NFL. Obviously, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable in the game of golf than those guys up there. So I love whenever majors roll around, but it's been a really awesome experience. And to be honest, I never saw myself as a radio host or trying to get into the radio business. It just happened through, just like my love for the game of golf. It just happened through my love for sports, and then just trying to do something productive with my free time, Coach. And I've kind of turned it into a career a little bit.
Well, you've done a great job, but now that you've been on Better Than I Found It, your career is taking off.
That's
Watch.
right. That's exactly right.
Listen, I really appreciate you spending an hour with me today. But before we finish, I'm going to do a quick speed round with you. So I haven't prepared you for these questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Coach.
All right. Favorite fast food, Chipotle or Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A, for sure.
All right, attaboy. Remember the Titans or Shawshank Redemption?
I've never seen Shawshank Redemption, so I got to go with Remember the Titans. I know that's probably sacrilegious to you.
Just can't believe you haven't seen Shawshank. You've got to do that. Southern Hills or Augusta National?
Augusta National.
Attaboy. Garth Brooks or George Strait? Be careful here.
I don't know. I got to go with the King, George Strait.
Attaboy. See, I'm a Garth Brooks fan because of his, connection to Oklahoma State, but I'm definitely a George Strait fan. Tournament you'd most like to win?
Tournament I would most like to win, the Masters. That should be everybody's answer.
Everybody's answer. Most famous person you've had dinner with?
Most famous person I've had dinner with? Probably Skip Bayless. My dad's best friend, Skip Bayless, and he's been like another father to me. So probably Skip.
Skip is an absolute morning with the Cowboys this year. He's
it's been tough down there, Coach.
Oh, man, has it been rough. Number of holes in one you've made?
4.5. I got one on a par 4, so I count that as 1.5.
That's beautiful. 3 plus a par 4. Nice. If you weren't a golfer, what athlete would you have been?
Basketball. Definitely basketball.
You'd probably be playing for the Thunder right now. Favorite PGA Tour player?
Tiger. And then if we're talking right now, let's go Austin Eckroat.
Attaboy. You picked last week's winner. You're genius. Lowest 18-hole score in competition?
In competition, 63.
63. Favorite book you've ever read?
Better Than I Found It.
God, he's genius, ladies and gentlemen. Better Than I Found It. Most famous person you've ever interviewed?
Most famous person I've ever interviewed.
I got to be a tour player in there someplace.
Yeah, probably Rory McIlroy.
Nice. I love me some Roy McIlroy. Dream foursome, final question. Dream foursome, you and 3 others.
Dream foursome. Okay, definitely Tiger and my dad. And then the other 2, let's go with this is an interesting question. I've never actually thought about this. So Tiger and my dad, let's go with Tom Watson.
Okay.
And Arnold Palmer.
Oh, good. Is Tom Watson the Kansas City connection, or did you like him before?
A little bit of a Kansas City connection, but I've just always loved the way he played golf and was able to, work his game, manage his way around a course, whether the conditions were terrible or great. I just loved his fight out on the golf course. I love watching old tapes of Tom Watson.
That's how he won 5 Open championships.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Sam, an absolute pleasure having you on today. I got a little more than a golf perspective. I got broadcasting perspective. I got life perspective. So I truly appreciate the time you spent with me, and I really do appreciate you being here.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate you asking me to be on, and just people out there, I don't think you realize how influential Coach McGraw has been, not only in people like me who didn't even play for him, but obviously as players. But, you were able to start something special with Edmond Junior Golf. And I think that everyone, since we're talking about this Edmond Junior Golf Hall of Fame, everyone owes you a big thank you for paving the way for all of us. So thank you, Coach.
You're welcome. And I hope to be back up in Oklahoma sometime, and I'd love to come back on your podcast. I'm a really interesting interview.
Hey, you got an open invitation anytime. Just text me, Coach.
All right, Sam. Well, thanks again.
All right. Thank you.